welcome everybody to a GoldenDudez podcast. My name is Nick, and I am joined by...
Mike.
Everyone.
Hi.
And Pat.
We're getting progressively worse at this.
And
You guys know
Travis.
that.
Oh, God.
Everybody has a name above or below them. I don't know where I'm putting this shit.
Right
Anyway, today we got more of a, just a nice fun topic that we're going to talk about. Nothing too crazy. It's going to be our favorite combat system.
Oh, you want to fight?
Yeah, want to fight? I'm down for that.
It's a
like
fight.
Tinder, but for fights. Anyway, I bet that exists. So yeah, for our favorite combat system, it can really cross any genre. We try to make it very vague. We try to make it so a lot of games could fit into this topic. Technically, Guitar Hero 3's face-offs can be in this, and also some MMO combat can also be in this as well. Even to your League of Legends and whatnot. Any game really can work. We just want to talk about some of our favorite combat systems and why they are so special. And I was gonna say a name to start off, but I don't know. Everybody just looks so intense. So Travis starts.
Oh, God. Well, on my screen, your video wasn't even close to pointing at me.
Don't say Xenoblade, because it fucking sucks.
Well, my favorite is Danganronpa.
No,
okay, so I'll say my runner-up. My runner-up is probably a game that I played, was it just a year ago? And it was a remake of a game, Final Fantasy. Because I liked it because it was a mix of kind of like the hack and slash to fill up your meter, but then still also kind of had the turn-based combat stuff with actually choosing, those different moves or having to take an item. So I thought it was really cool that you had to kind of combine the two different types of combat that's typically used in RPGs, and it just, in my opinion, went really, really smoothly. And for a big dum-dum like me, who can sometimes take 1,002 years to understand any sort of combat, I felt like, even though it was a complex system, because there's a lot of stuff that can go on at the same time, it was really easy to manage your different characters and switch between them and kind of get a different scheme. Because I feel like you didn't necessarily need one way to actually be the most powerful to beat the last boss. I'm guessing I kind of had a different setup than what everyone else did, just because I liked the characters, so I kind of went around it. But yeah, I really enjoyed the Final Fantasy VII remake, yeah. I can't remember which. So many Final Fantasies, I'm sure.
There's like 100,000 Final Fantasies. You just say a number. I'm sure it'll be like close.
Exactly.
It'll be within like 20.
The one with like the thunderstorm cloud person.
There's a lot of those. That's like every one, honestly.
I'd like to throw out there, I was very worried. Not that Final Fantasy 15 was a bad game, but I didn't like its combat system, at least the way they did it. And I was very worried they were going to do that same thing with Final Fantasy 7, and I'm really glad they didn't. Final Fantasy 7, I think, was a lot more interactive. It was less just holding down the attack button and going into auto mode, and a lot more like interactive in terms of switching moves and things like that. I really liked it. I was very pleasantly surprised that they actually did something right with the more active combat than what they normally did. So I liked it.
Yeah, it was tough because I think after Final Fantasy 12, especially with the Gambit system, that was one of their attempts at trying to make it more you're using a whole party with say purposeful decisions the entire time. And they kind of backtracked that in Final Fantasy 13 because they were like, wait a second, controlling 3 characters independently of each other? You can't really do that. The human brain doesn't work that way. So they kind of took a backtrack and they kept it back to one person in Final Fantasy 15. And they kind of kept with it, but you kind of have the act of changing with Final Fantasy 7 Remake. I do think that Final Fantasy 7 Remake had a great combat system. I do like the fact also that maybe it was just me personally, but I felt like there were certain moves, especially from boss fights, that you couldn't actually dodge, which kind of gave me the feel that there was kind of some elements of turn-based battling still in it, and I thought that was really cool. Mm-hmm. Where instead you had to defend during those times because you're not going just to escape everything. So I thought that was neat. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So who's next?
My favorite combat system, Nick.
Your runner-up or favorite? Which one?
The best one of all time is Paper Mario Sticker Star.
Oh shit! Finally,
My
we speaking the truth.
Someone had to say
Let him know, Mike.
Someone had to say it. I've just got to say
Let
it.
him know. Let him know.
No, I'll start with my runner-up. I don't know, actually. I'm just going to start with the first one that came to my mind, because I have two that are kind of even. The first one is Horizon Zero Dawn. My gosh. this game's combat was so much fun. And I guess at this point it's already been up, so I can say it. Me and Matt started a race in this game, which makes no goddamn sense because it's such a story-focused exploration game. So in that race, we've really had to focus in on just the combat, which I was worried about because I'm like, combat, I don't think it was that great in that game. When I went back and played it, I'm like, oh my gosh, the combat in this game is amazing. I've had just as much fun just fighting the machines as I did exploring and getting engaged in the story. Just the fact that you have to strategize in a lot of ways, so killing creatures isn't just attacking it until its health bar goes down. You actually have to plan things out, so you have to find its weakness, you have to use different types of weapons and arrows. A lot of times they throw different combinations at you, so you're trying to hit the belly of a behemoth over here while you're also trying to take out the lasers on top of a Ravager over here. So there's so many different things going on that each situation you're planning it out differently, and it's so much fun. Every single enemy in that game from top to bottom works just a little bit differently. And then you have the humans, which just you shoot them in the head and they die. But that's the fun of it, I think, right? Is there's such a variety of enemy types and humans and things like that it never gets stale, which I was worried about, and I've played this game now on difficulties as easy as story and as hard as ultra hard. And regardless of the difficulty you play on, regardless of your level, it doesn't get stale. You adapt to the world that you're in and the style that you're playing. So it's phenomenal. And I think I know Nick was the first to play it and fell in love with it. And, we rave about the story of it and stuff. And I think it was cool solely focusing on the combat, seeing oh shit, this game did other things amazing too, not just the story that I was focused on. The combat's in it amazing too. So that, I don't know if it's my runner-up or favorite, but that's definitely the first one that popped into my head. So yeah.
I was going to say as well, one of my favorite things in there, it's a little bit of a spoiler because Pat and Travis also haven't played it, but one of my favorite things about that game is the fact that there's a couple of specific kinds of weapons that you use. Some of them are slingshots and some of them are specific arrow types. And one of the arrow types that I feel is one of the most ingenious ones that has been in any game is a Terror Blast arrow. One of the things I love about the Terror Blast arrow is you can scan certain parts and you can see where the enemy's weaknesses is, and you can aim for those parts. So say, for example, that a Ravager has, maybe I can't remember what they're called, but say, for example, you're facing a monster that has a cannon that's been kicking your ass. You can use a Terror Blast arrow, take it off, and use that weapon against him. So pretty much the approach that you can take to any of these fights is completely different, and there's so many ways to still beat it and that are still viable. And I think that's one of the toughest things to do because most people are okay, this is the best arrow type, this fire does the most damage. That's how you beat the beast. And Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't really follow that kind of convention where you have especially you can trip them with the Tripcaster and take them down that way. You can do a whole bunch of fire damage at distance if you're, say, low on health. They don't have 50 or 100 types of enemies, but the say 25, 30 that they do are so in depth that it just makes coming back to the game just so easy to do. So that's what I really liked about the combat.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Nice.
All right. I'm gonna go because Matt wasn't stepping up to the plate.
I was actually, but then you interrupted me.
Okay, fine, go ahead.
Animal Crossing, is that what it is?
Wait, I thought Nick was going.
I said all right.
Oh my
Fine,
God.
I'm going. No, you lost your turn. Damn it. Okay.
You have lost speaking privileges.
I'm going to take mine in a very stupid route, and I'm not sure if it's stupid or genius, but you guys are going to judge me for it either way, so I don't even care.
Wow,
I'm going to say Melee. I'm going to say Super Smash Bros. Melee, by far. Combat-wise,
wow,
when it comes down to
original.
fighting games... I know, right? Crazy. I know, Mike just reacted there. No, combat-wise, I think this game is as close to perfect as you can get, especially when it comes down to a fighting game. Melee is really a happy accident. If you remember the days when me, Pat, and Jake literally only mentioned Melee or any other Smash Bros. Games that we would play.
You mean yesterday?
Yeah, it was... yeah, it was a couple days ago. Anyway, it was that for a pretty damn good reason. Melee has just an insane depth when it comes down to mechanics, when it comes down to the fluidity of the combat, when it comes down to the flow chart and the combo variety. There's so many fighting games, and this is going to be a mini rant where I'm going to shit on other fighting games. There's so many fighting games where you do have, and a lot of people get into the mindset of, there's one best route, optimal route to go when it comes down to. Melee is not like that. I can agree with that when it comes down to Ultimate, when it comes down to Smash 4, when it comes down to Street Fighter 5, in some veins Tekken 7, in some veins Skullgirls, where certain links are objectively the best, and you aim for that. Melee, no. Depending on how you get one hit, it could be taken in 15 different directions based on how the DI is, based on where the hit stun is going, based on what hitboxes you get. The way that the game flows into their punishes, where how the characters are able to express themselves with the characters that they play, with the different play styles, it's a sandbox fighter in a way that I've really never seen, and I keep using this, come back to it being a happy accident because it was never meant to be that. Melee was not meant to be a competitive game. And that's one of the reasons I still think it's so cool that Melee is being explored to this depth. There's still things. Melee came out in like 2000? There's still things that people are discovering to this day about Melee. Some of them were glitches, some of them weren't. But it's still crazy to me that I can watch one person play one character for hours on end and not get bored of it because there is so much to do with that one character that not even days or tournaments can capture everything that one character can do. There's, of course, objectively worse and better characters, but that's in every fighting game. So personally, when people say that it's an unbalanced fighting game, yes, but in my opinion, I don't hold that as a criticism against the game itself because of the fact I care more about the mechanics and how it actually feels to play. And there hasn't been a game that feels better to play in terms of a fighting game, to me, than Melee. So honestly, there's a reason I think it's the best fighting game ever made, and I'm sure Pat agrees with me on that, but I don't know what else to say. It's a damn near perfect fighting game in my mind, even though a lot of people see it as a glitchy mess, and I understand that.
Yeah, if they could just nerf Pichu, I would be all for it, but...
Yeah, Pichu, bottom 3 character, okay.
Yeah, no doubt. I just like it because you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, and as long as you're good enough, you can recover from it, and that's magic.
Yeah,
so.
It has, the depth that you dive into when it comes down to just skill level and whatnot. You're gonna be facing some people who've played the game a ton and whatnot, but honestly, I never care about getting my ass kicked in that game. I just love playing it and love discovering it because I bring it up a lot in other games that we talk about. You're constantly trying out new things, and that kind of free-flowing pattern of trying out new things, seeing if it works, and never getting old is a lot of what I look for when it comes down to a combat system. So it might come up with my favorite game. Just saying.
Why you gotta throw shade at Skullgirls though? Like, what the hell is that?
Skullgirls is fine. I'm just talking about fighting games that have optimized route no matter what. Yeah, Melee is one of the only fighting games that I've seen that does not follow that path, and I don't want to go too much into it.
Be a fox, man.
I will talk for way too long, so somebody else go.
Anyways, my runner-up for best combat would be
Animal Crossing.
Last of Us
He's
Part
still thinking.
2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Animal Crossing New Horizons Part 2.
Anyways,
sorry.
Last of Us Part 2. So, I know the game got really bipolar reviews. Either people really loved it or really hated it. I really loved it, so because I really loved the combat in it. So, with any great game, combat game, it gives the gamer different approaches where they can choose how they want to take out their enemies. You could sneak past them and not do anything and just get to the next checkpoint.
The best
who wants
combat.
that? But who wants that? Anyways, or you could go say hello to my little friend and bang, bang, bang everybody out and let everyone know
that
you're
sounds
there.
like the Matt way to play to me.
Honestly, but also too, when you're the character, you can literally jump onto people from roofs. That's what I loved that they added. Just out of nowhere, you would just be kamikazing and Ellie jumping on some random person who's just on guard, or sneaking up to someone and then cutting out their jugular and then watching them bleed.
You scare me, buddy.
Or you can hold the.
He's just describing the way to kill people.
Yeah.
That's kind of fucked up.
You don't gotta go to this much detail. It's fine.
Or you could hold them as hostage and then have their allies shoot them to death, and then use their dead body as a shield to protect you, and then take out the enemy.
I don't think the topic was favorite torture porn, Matt. What is this?
Anyways,
Potato.
also, there are so many things you can craft too. You can craft Molotovs. These work great on not only the freaks, but also on humans. Especially
question. What the F is a freak? Or is it zombies, or is that like an actual thing in the game?
Well, I don't know what they're called. They're called like, what are they called?
Just like infected, right? I think they're just called infected.
Yeah,
infected.
No, but then there are like certain
freaks.
There are certain ones that are like that you have to like that can like listen. That they have really good
clickers.
Hearing. Clickers.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep a straight face.
Clicker freak.
With you.
Well, you know.
Clicker freak, yeah. But
they both do clicking noises, you know.
Or you could just sit back and have the infected fight people, and then you don't have to do anything and just watch and bask in the glory of of the chaos that you created. So
okay, Pat, what's your runner-up, please?
So that's
you
my
need to
take
go
on that
to.
game.
No, that is his
My
runner-up.
My runner-up is Matt getting therapy.
Oh my god, dude.
No. My real runner-up is Matt fighting the nurses at therapy. Anyway,
I'm down for that.
no, it's
They're trying to sedate him, and he's just in a straitjacket. Like, no, sorry. I'm
it's actually a game that I haven't played in like 2 years, and I'm amazed that Ubisoft still puts out new content for this game, because considering that like 30 people play it in the world, is For Honor. It actually had one of like the coolest like dueling combat systems I'd seen in like a fighting game. However, I think the reason that it's not as popular anymore is because the way they set it up, not very good at. So like when the game first came out, everyone was like, "Oh, cool! Like these are learning all these combos, learning all these new moves, like super super cool." But then everybody figured out how to just like abuse their character. And then it no longer was fun anymore. But for the first like 6 months that game was out, it was super fun. The combat was super cool. The way you had different angles of attack and blocking. You had to, if you would attack right, you'd have to block left to be able to like block the attack, and changing up your angles to fuck up with the person you're fighting against. And it's just a really in-depth and like really like they thought about everything. Unfortunately, I think they thought a little bit too hard and gave every character some kind of like broken mechanic or like abusable mechanic, and haven't really balanced it at all. So they just keep adding new characters, and it just gets really annoying because you keep getting kicked off the same bridge and dying instantly instead of having an actual fight. But when it came out, awesome. Top tier combat system.
Yeah, I remember you were playing that a couple times, and I was like, dang, this game looks pretty cool.
I played that like when we were in college. I think Eric and I and DJ, we all played like together for like it was like 16 hours straight after we finished midterms or some shit. Like that game was super fun to play, especially with friends. But now it just sucks because everyone's either really good or really annoying.
Yeah. Matt, Travis is deferring for what his game is. Because you are passionate about your favorite combat system, which is
Ghost of Tsushima is my favorite
Hell
combat
yeah.
system.
Wow, what an awesome game.
This game was so smooth. Although at first, I really sucked at the combat. Like, there's a really big learning curve. Like, maybe it wasn't just me, but like everyone like had issues with it initially, but you get really used to it. Oh, hi, welcome back, Pat.
That was weird.
I enjoyed your freeze frame though. It was really
the freeze frame
really
was pretty good.
It was perfect for the moment, for sure.
But honestly, for duels, like every time he went into duels, they would make it so epic. Also, this music during the duels was really cool and added a little bit more effect and just made you feel part of the duel. Like, wow, like I'm actually there, but I'm not. But it's still pretty cool. Also, when you're challenging, you can like approach like different approaches. You could, silently assassinate everyone in the Mongol camp, or you can challenge me and then kill like 5 of them in one hit, and then get the rest of them.
So, just a quick question. So, according to your description, Matt, it is identical to Last of Us Part 2?
But there's no guns.
Oh,
You should tell
Okay,
them
so there's
that.
no guns,
Yeah,
but
so-
you do get to make the exact same choices.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Different.
we know exactly what he prefers.
Right.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of both. I like to challenge me because that's honorable way, but only when I have good gear. Because if you don't have really good gear, you get effed up. Because there's a lot of them. Because a lot of enemies surround you, and you have to be precise with your combat. That's why a lot of people struggle with the controls initially. Because
Right.
they think that you can just spam, but no, not
You gotta
this.
be thinking
You
about
have-
it.
You have to, well, not just be strategic, but you also have to like consider, the different stances.
Right.
This actually sounds a lot more complicated than I would. Like, it looked complicated when I was watching you guys play it for
Legends.
whatever it was.
Legends mode is simplified from what the actual.
Yeah,
Ghost of Tsushima
Legends,
is.
you're
Gotcha.
kind of like everyone's pretty much like OP because you're having like 4 players that know how to play like their characters. So
Yeah.
Mongols aren't as threatening. It's just when
Okay.
the boss waves come in, it's when it's a
Gotcha.
little chaotic.
Okay. That makes sense.
A single Mongol in Ghost of Tsushima Legends is like, I would say, a third as difficult as an actual Mongol in the game. Or maybe it's only like a half, but like, yeah, the Horde mode in Ghost of Tsushima Legends,
Sounds
those
bad.
Mongols are really not difficult to fight. The ones in the actual game will punish you if you try to spam.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they will definitely. Yeah, and then on top of that, yeah, it's just a part of it, and it's just smooth. Like during the duels, like you can use different combinations as you like, or you can just use simple like just parrying and perfect parrying and hitting them back, or you could do what Nick mentioned and slaughter the enemy captain and take his head and throw it at the enemy and scare them away.
That audio
whatever
has a
works.
thing.
Thank you for making sure that people know.
Dear God.
That's awesome.
It is honestly,
It's
it's cool
awesome.
because we
That's
did
why
a game breakdown.
everyone should play the game, even though you may not like it. You should play it.
That's a good sell, Matt. Honestly, I think people like the game. What I want to point out, though, is some of the information that I actually learned about doing just looking through the trophies for it. Because you know how PlayStation actually keeps stats on trophies of the ones that everybody gets. Ghost of Tsushima is one of the biggest oddities in a good way that I've ever seen for PlayStation games. If you look at just the trophy count, half of the people who start playing Ghost of Tsushima finish the game. And about 15% of the people who play it get the platinum.
Wow.
That honestly is insane for a game like that to me, especially one that is really not. I'm not going to call Ghost of Tsushima an easy game. I understand it not being people's cup of tea and whatnot, and certain people might not like the kind of combat style. I thought it was fantastic, but in terms of mass appeal, this game by far has it. And I know we've talked about it to death, but it's just crazy to me to see stats like that because even great games like I've seen for like God of War not even hitting that. Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't hit that. Other big Sony games don't hit that percentage of people who even start the game finishing it. So Ghost of Tsushima was a huge oddity, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of people.
It
that
has
straight up
there's a
beat the
story
game.
that keeps people entranced and.
Well, yeah,
keeps
same
them
with God of
over.
War, same with Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah,
That's not the point.
but
That's
I
not
wanna-
the point. All I'm saying is that like even other blockbusters, big budget Sony games aren't able to pull in that many people to finish
Well, I will
the game.
say though
That's
that
good about Ghost of Tsushima.
the plot to get to like action, like to get to real action for like God of War and
This
Horizon
is a
Zero-
combat video, just so we know, so we don't talk about this game for too long.
I like that idea. Anyway, we're done with Ghost of Tsushima. Travis, you deferred. Now you're up.
Okay. But that game does look super fun, and once it goes down in price, I'll definitely pick it up because it did look pretty sweet. Okay, so my favorite combat, it also goes along with my whole, I like the little complex things, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Legend Torna, right?
Hell yeah. Yes.
Yes, because I was like, I forget what the DLC was actually titled. I know it's something with Torna, but that combat is so freaking fun because not only do you have to still do all of the whole getting all the elements down to like do this big massive move, and then you also have like toppling and the whole. There's just a bunch of different things to gain a lot of damage, but then you can also switch to your actual blade and control the blade, which is so fun because before you're just Rex hacking and slashing and you're only controlling a few actual moves while you're moving around, but like now you actually get to switch to your blade, have a whole new move kit that you have to know what each of them actually do and how they can interrelate to add for the more big mucho damage. And it keeps you busy, it keeps you thinking, and it's really quick. So, like, and they are really good about gradually introducing all of these new things. Because the reason why, I know, like, it was more when Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, when they had their big, like, demo floor, they were put in the middle of it, so they had no chance to, like, figure out how things actually interrelated, so it was really confusing. But they do a really good job at easing you into it, so even though you're doing a million things, so if you've never played it and you're looking at gameplay, you're like, I don't know what's going on, but it looks neat. But, like, you feel like you're completely in control and it's not too complicated, but it's a complex system, so you're, like, keeping busy.
Yeah, for me personally, I think one of the things that was really different that I liked about it is the original Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had a lot more of an emphasis on, like, blades being something that, like, they were a collectible. It was kind of like a gacha system, more like what you'd see in, like, a mobile game where they want you to collect everything or whatnot. There's this kind of randomized chance to get it. More in the vein of trying to collect all the Pokemon. And to some people, that was more enticing for them because they like those mechanics. Personally, I didn't like that. After I got a couple rare blades, I thought, okay, I'm good. I can figure out how to do it just based on the combat system alone. But it seemed like more of the focus of Xenoblade 2, the DLC, Legend of Torna, was more along the lines of trying to flesh out the battle system into a way that feels more cohesive. Because when you get to the actual battles in Xenoblade 2, you're only controlling the driver. You're never controlling the blade. And what's nice when Travis mentioned that you're constantly switching between driver and blade, there seems to be more of a deliberate option where what's nice about it is you constantly feel like you're setting up certain things, and the fights are way more strategic. If you look at the combat from like an overall perspective, it looks more like an MMO where you're just casting arts or whatnot, but it really rewards strategic positioning. It rewards certain timing of attacks based on whatever element that you're inflicting or whatever status that you're inflicting, and how to chain those together. So it does a really good job of making the battles feel more cohesive, like you're an actual team of people fighting one enemy, rather than just one person who's trying to collect a lot of Pokemon, but technically all the arts do something very similar, and it doesn't differ by much. Like, you'll have 500 break arts, 500 topple arts, a couple of them that drop a health potion or something like that. I never felt Xenoblade Chronicles 2's combat focus was... I never really felt the focus was as much on combat, but Torna, the DLC, I definitely thought was, and I thought it was better in that. So, I agree. I agree with what Trav said.
Now it's Shulk time.
Other Xenoblade game. But yeah.
Sweet.
Mike.
Is that me? Oh.
Or if you want to defer to me.
No, F you, dude. I'm not deferring.
Okay, fair enough.
I ain't deferring shit. I don't know if this is my favorite combat system, but it is definitely up there as one of like my favorites. I think this combat system is so unique and really cool, and that is Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. This is like a game that Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, Grandpa.
Okay. Are you winning yet, son? Are you winning?
Shut up. Okay, I'm gonna kick you out again.
Please don't. It's gonna mess up with the names.
No, Kingdoms of Amalur. So this is a game I hold near and dear to my heart, and I'm not going to detract too much, but it's such like an underrated RPG style of game. Focusing specifically on the gameplay, it does not play very much at all like a classic open world RPG does. You think of games like Skyrim and Fallout and Kingdom Come Deliverance and games like that where, you know, you kind of have a weapon, you build up a class, and you kind of, you know, it's not hack and slash, you know, it's very slow, more realistic combat. Kingdoms of Amalur is an open world RPG that has combat a lot more like a Devil May Cry game or something along the lines of Dante's Inferno, where it is very simple. So you are hacking and slashing, but there is a lot of thought, I guess, that goes into it in terms of what weapons should you use to take down certain enemies. The weapons that you have in the game are elemental, and so sometimes you'll go into like an ice area, and you'll want to like have your fire weapons and things like that. And so there is a lot of planning in terms of the type of weapons you want to use. The game also has magic and bow and arrows, similar to most RPGs do. The difference, and I think what really sets this game apart in my mind, is just the amount of fucking weapons that this game has that are out of the norm. Most most fighting games, like I love Oblivion is my favorite RPG of all time. It's swords and bow and arrows. I mean, that's really all it is. You got axes and maces too, but Kingdoms of Amalur has like what I don't know what it's called. It's that like circle wheel that like people will have around them that you can use.
Hula hoop.
Yeah, basically,
it's
basically what it is. You have like scepters. The game has like its own unique weapons. They're called like Fey Blades. You have those ones. I don't know what they're called either. You hold them like from the side, and you hold them like little daggers on the side. Like if it is a weapon that exists, it is probably in this game. I think the list is like 20 different classes of weapons long, so it's really, really cool. It feels almost more like an MMO in that area than it does a classic RPG in just like the variety of weapons that you have. But it's simple, and I think above all else, I think that's what I really liked about it. It doesn't take a lot to get into. It's really quick, but it doesn't get old. And I think that's one of the things that's easy for a game like this to do is get repetitive. But this one doesn't. It has a lot of different enemies, a lot of different like environments for fights to take place in, and a lot of different stuff to figure out. So it's underrated, and it's a very simple one. But I think it did combat really, really well for the type of game that it is. And people should play it. This game does not get it. It's like Nier. I don't think this game gets nearly enough love that it should. It's fantastic, and they just made a remake. Nearly.
Oh,
It's like Nier Automata. Nier Automata. Oh, never mind.
Mike's smile just faded. It's like, wait, what?
That's all I gotta say. Thanks, Matt. You ruined everything.
Got it. I will add that to my list of games, Mike. Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna mention my favorite combat system. I might get some crap for this. Fire Emblem Fates. Fire Emblem Fates is my favorite combat system of almost any game by far. It took me a long time to be able to admit it, but story-wise, not the best game. But gameplay-wise, holy shit. I just threw a pen. So damn good. Okay, so the Fire Emblem series for a long time, just to give a very brief backstory, has been struggling for a while on trying to keeping it more interesting. And what they did in Awakening was a great first step, in my opinion. Awakening was really seen as a big resurgence. A lot of people who were Fire Emblem fans it was a very niche audience. It was like one-person combat system. You got the weapon triangle. You got some magic types that are better than others and whatnot. But it didn't really deviate as such. And the combat system was always, I felt, good, not great. Awakening was a huge jump in the right direction where we can start pairing people up, getting better supports to be able to give yourself better stats, like better hit chances, better defense, better evade. But they also introduced a couple things that, I'm just going to say it, were really fucking stupid, and I don't think it was actually 100% thought out. So Awakening, one of the biggest ones was the ability Gale Force. If you have a Dark Flyer, they're able, I believe, at level 10 to get an ability called Gale Force, which if you're able to defeat an enemy, you'll be able to move again. This is also a class that has a ton of movement. So if you pair this person up, you defeat an enemy, then you switch to a different person with Gale Force, you defeat another enemy, so you essentially can kill 3 people at once. And you might think, okay, that's kind of neat. It was broken as all hell. I started realizing very quickly about how the combat system of Awakening was very good, but it didn't really seem to be very battle-tested, and I felt like it was just too easily exploited, where once you got at least one person that was way higher than the rest of them, you could kind of steamroll the map. And they made some very necessary adjustments when it came down to Fire Emblem Fates, where I personally think when it comes down to Conquest is one of the hardest Fire Emblem games I've ever played. And that's one of the things that used to draw me to the series. But they also refined what they did well in Awakening to make it even better. So they didn't make Gale Force broken. They fixed it where you couldn't have a support where you're able to, or if you kill somebody, use it. They still kept the ability in. They just nerfed it and adjusted it. And they did that for almost every ability to a point where it was near perfection in my eyes. The combat system that you were learning was good. You could also visit other people's areas, and you can like learn other skills from different people or whatnot. The way that you're structuring your group to build your class was really good, and especially when it came down to some of those conquest maps on the harder difficulties, you could not steamroll the map with one person, and it actually caused you to think, which is something that I feel like a lot of the Fire Emblems nowadays are very lacking in doing. If you ask Travis, I can't tell you how much I bitched about 3 houses. It was ridiculous.
I had all flyers. It was really fun.
Flyers have always been broken in Fire Emblem, though. But the point that I'm trying to get at is that
you can easily make all of them flyers.
Yes. the gameplay loop for Fire Emblem Fates was the best in my personal opinion because of the fact that you had average story, but then you got to go to a map where you're constantly trying out, like I mentioned before, constantly trying out new techniques, learning new abilities, trying out different classes, and I think what's most important about it is you're constantly being throwing a new challenge that will not let you keep doing that same shit. So you got to be extremely resourceful. You got to be very careful about who you're bringing in and who you choose to level up. And that kind of, some people might not like it because of the meticulous thought that you have. I think that difficulty was perfect for a Fire Emblem game perspective, and it was clear that Conquest in Fire Emblem Fates was definitely made for fans, and it was very clear that that's not that kind of difficulty. What they're going for is not that kind of motivation that they're bringing about through the new Fire Emblem entries. So I'm starting to lose faith that Fire Emblem will ever be what I personally liked about it, but Fire Emblem Fates is like the pinnacle of what the Fire Emblem combat can be, and shit, man, I don't even want to know how much time I sank into it. It's good. I don't know. I know you guys haven't played it. It's good. It does take me a while for me to admit the story wasn't the best, but combat wise, it's still perfect. Yeah.
All right.
Sweet.
So is that me?
Anyone
Yeah,
else?
that's you.
All right. So
No!
I'm gonna go really
Pat's
quick.
never going. Sorry.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
Stay golden.
Bye, everybody.
No, just really, really quick. Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor
Oh, those are fun.
are super fun when it comes to combat. And as a Lord of the Rings fan, despise the game on a story level, but I still sunk in I would say probably a couple 100 hours into those games. Literally just because the combat was so much fun, and the system of like how they created these like procedurally generated, like randomized almost enemies. Every enemy, like every warlord you'd come up against has some kind of strengths and weaknesses, and you had to be high enough level to figure those out, and then you could use those to your advantage or to your detriment if you weren't paying attention. So there's a lot of...
You could kidnap their bodyguards, control them, have the bodyguards kill them.
You could do that too, yes. There's a lot of options on how you wanted to do stuff. So I know Matt would like it then if there's a lot of ways you can do
Can't
things.
you slit throats at the jugular?
No.
You can,
but
probably.
you can get a Karagor to eat them.
Oh.
Yeah, you sure can. Matt still needs therapy. Okay, the biggest thing is like
Choices.
Yes. No. The biggest thing that I like about the actual combat is how fluid it is. You can go seamlessly from like combo to combo from attack to attack. And just it makes you feel like a fucking badass. Like it's so cool. The thing that I love most is it is, since it is kind of that hack and slashy almost kind of game, since there are a lot of, big combos, big hits, big attacks, it does a really good job of making you feel like a Lord of the Rings character. And what I mean by that is like every main character in Lord of the Rings has insane plot armor, gets like 1,000 kills every battle, like super OP, crazy, can't die. They'll fight off like 1,000 orcs by themselves, and that's what it feels like.
But the enemies do
that's
adapt, though.
the
I
magic.
did like about that.
They do, yeah.
So like you can't just go hacky slashy on this one guy because eventually he'll learn to block that move. So you'll have to do something else. Like you shoot a fire arrow at him. Initially he gets scared of it, but then he could develop immunity if he escapes you.
Right, exactly.
All right, then.
That's all I got on that.
All right, cool.
Cool discussion.
Just like always, we definitely go over for how long we think we're going to make these. But hey, we talked about a lot of really, really great games, so hopefully you guys check them out. Those are our favorite combat systems, so there's a combat section below, like we always mention. If there's any combat systems that you really want to tell us about that you haven't told us about already, please let us know. We're very interested to hear. But besides that, we hope you guys all have a lovely day and stay golden.
Bye.
This is my favorite combat system.
Oh. Shit.
Oh, snap. Bye.
Bye.